Good evening and welcome to this edition of the IslandStats.com World Cup 2022. It's quarterfinal day one, and we know who now will face each other in the first semifinal. I'm your host, Daryl Basden. Joining me is co-host Matthew Fullerton, better known as Fully. Fully, a bit disappointing day for you. We'll get to that. Because we knew today was going to be a day of who can hold the nerve the longest. We talked about the first match of the day, Brazil and Croatia. You had indicated that Croatia would need to be at their absolute best to defeat Brazil and, to hold them out 0-0 in regulation, go down 1-0 in extra time, come back and score, and then defeat them in kicks from the penalty mark. For them, and you've already indicated, people are sleeping on this team that made it to the final 4 years ago.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, it's come up today, since they've claimed that big scalp. Obviously, Brazil were one of the favorites to win the whole tournament, and Croatia have been slept on, but they don't give up. That midfield three, it's death by 1,000 passes. And I must admit, at 1-0 in extra time, I was thinking, I don't know. It's going to be tough, but they did it. I mean, I thought Brazil were a little naive. They went to try and kill the game off. And I saw an image where there were 6 Brazilians on their attacking side of the ball when Croatia were attacking that led to the tying goal, which is super naive, Croatia don't exactly have a world-class number 9, they're not Ronaldo or Lewandowski, but you still have to give them the respect of not over-attacking in the second half of extra time with 3 minutes left. And Brazil paid the price. It was a bit lucky. They got a deflection, beat Alisson. And then on the penalty kicks, the goalkeeper, who has been a hero for them the whole tournament, he's played very well, did it again. I was a little disappointed in Neymar. Went for the glory role in my eyes. Said, I'll take the last kick. I'm going to win the game for us. Never got to kick. And you remember a few years back, I can't remember which tournament it was, but a Portuguese fella took a lot of stick for doing the same thing and never getting to take a spot kick, and his team lost. So I think Neymar deserves a bit of criticism for that, because personally, I like my best takers to go first, or at least one of the two to go first. And to send up Rodrigo, who I don't know if he's never done it in a World Cup, you know what I mean? And you want that first one to go in, and we'll revisit this conversation in a couple minutes. But Brazil were chasing from the off, and then Croatia were just slotting them home. They did miss one, if I'm correct. Yeah, and then it came down to Marquinhos had to score. Again, I felt like Neymar should have stepped up. He didn't. Hits the post. Bye-bye. See you later.
It's funny you say that, because back in 2016 in the Olympics in Brazil, Brazil played Germany in the final. And believe it or not, Neymar went last for Brazil and scored the winner. I felt at that time he should have taken probably the second or the third penalty to give him put him in a comfortable position. Because if you're last and you don't get an opportunity to take it, then what? You're the best player that they have.
Yeah. I mean, it goes both ways, right? But in a World Cup quarterfinal, I feel like you need to put your best takers in a position where they will definitely take a kick.
Take a penalty, yeah.
Fifth is a gamble. You gamble on getting there, and they didn't. So it doesn't pay off.
Yeah.
Credit to Croatia. I mean, that midfield never stopped.
Yeah.
The goal was fantastic. People will say, oh, Brazil lost, blah, blah, blah. I thought Brazil did enough to win that game. Their finishing let them down. The Croatian goalkeeper stood up to, I think it was 12 shots.
Yeah.
Credit to him. I mean, he's there to play his part, and he played it.
And
So
again, they are now 90 minutes away, 90 plus minutes away from making it to their second consecutive World Cup final. And that's by no fluke, though.
No,
By no fluke. Yeah.
Not at all.
Then was the second game, and I know this one is near and deep to your heart, Fully. It was Argentina 2, Netherlands 2. Let's talk a little bit about the game itself, and we'll get to the penalty kicks. But when you look at it, Argentina would have been, again, they come in as favorites. But when Messi would have scored that go-ahead penalty to make it 2-0, did you honestly believe that the Netherlands were over and done then?
A 2% chance of me probably thought we could turn this around, but no. I actually typed in one of my chat groups. I said that's probably game. One of my fellow Dutch fans told me, no, we're going to win 3-2. And I was like, that'd be great, but I just don't see it happening. For the first 80 minutes of that game, Argentina were really just a step ahead. There were too many Dutch players that started the game that didn't show up. Mm-hmm. But they were a little arrogant. They weren't respecting their opponent. I mean, that Argentina team is obviously a bunch of guys that play at a very high level.
Yes.
You have to give them the respect of knowing that they can play football. Mm-hmm. I thought the Dutch had a great game plan, but it was a matter of time. What a ball for the first goal. I mean, that number 10 from Argentina, I don't know if you've ever heard of him, the Messi fellow.
I ain't heard of nothing. His first time on the field, isn't he?
I don't know, but what a player. I mean, half an inch of space. You could critique the Dutch. There were a few things they could have done differently, but my word, what a pass. Mm-hmm. Ball goes in. Like you said, 2-0's the penalty with, 15 minutes left, maybe.
That's over 15 minutes left, yeah.
And then it was very un-Dutch-like. Route 1 football. Mm-hmm. Bunch of big guys up front. And what a first goal. That was a
83rd minute.
The big man from Burnley, playing football he knows. And extra time. What I love about this World Cup, Earl, and I'm not just saying this because of this game, the adding on the time at the end that is deserved.
Yes.
All the
substitutions, the fouls, the wasting times. Yeah.
It's getting on, and we would have never seen 10 minutes in the past. Credit to the referees. They got it right. And a little set play called Argentina napping, and I woke up most of Paget because that's where I was watching. So, yeah, too. Extra time was pretty much Argentina's, as you would expect, because Holland had a lot of attackers on. Argentina tried to win the game and came very close with the last kick. Enzo hitting the bottom of the post.
Right.
And then it's the shootout. We lost to them in a shootout the last World Cup we attended and started off bad. Van Dijk. Credit to Emi Martinez, though. Even in the Copa America, he saved a few. Mm-hmm. Made 2 good saves, put us behind early. It's hard to come back. A lot of pressure on you. And, Argentina won. Credit to him.
Yeah.
Great game. A great game to win.
And it keeps Messi's hope alive of repeating what Diego Maradona done in years going by, 1986, when he led Argentina to the world title for football. So he keeps his dream alive. He keeps his country's dream alive.
Definitely. And credit to the Argentinian supporters. That stadium today looked like Buenos Aires, Qatar. It was an Argentinian home game.
Right.
And that might have a lot to do with the number 10. Even the locals would want to celebrate him and cheer him on. So
yes. And because the main thing is you never know when it will be his last.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, if and when that will be his last. So yeah, definitely a great game, and one that people will remember for quite some time in this particular World Cup. Well, we know semifinal number one will feature Croatia and Argentina.
Yep.
Tomorrow, this time, we will know who the other semifinals will be. We first have
The Cinderella.
Morocco
Yes.
versus Portugal. There's a lot of talk right now in the Portuguese camp about Ronaldo's attitude. Um, there's talk that he was going to quit, and the coaches finally said, "You know what? Everybody, shut up and let's just play football because this is the World Cup." As you've
Yeah.
indicated, Morocco. Who would have thought that they would be in this position right now?
Hey, I don't even think they would have. I mean, they have to be honest with themselves. A World Cup quarterfinal was probably the dream. But here they are, taking on the favorites, and I expect them to keep that wide open, pedal to the metal, rock and roll football, whatever you want to call it. I feel like they're just going to go with what they know.
Yeah,
At some point, it may burn them, but they're going to go down doing what they do. And credit to them because they've been fun to watch. The
yeah.
Portuguese are obviously loaded. We know that. I think they'll look to play their game.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be a great game to watch. I personally believe that Portugal will edge this one. However, I would love to see the upset in this
Sure, sure.
case.
Well, the one good thing, and you've indicated, if Morocco get ahead, that football that they've played, imagine those drum beats in that African stadium
And the
that actually makes them even more high tempo.
Once they get ahead, they're hard to break down.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying it's impossible, and Portugal do have the means, but it's easy. So, early or a Morocco first goal would really make this fun.
Yeah, yeah. I think people will sit down and tune in a little bit more if Morocco did edge ahead.
Yeah.
Then the game that everybody's been waiting for when this came about. England versus France. The defending champions, France, take on the English. Um, what do you say about this game? I mean, we know what the defending champions are capable of doing. They're able to turn on a switch and turn it off when they want to.
Yeah.
The English have proven over the last few years under their coach that they've had the same or similar type approach where they can turn on a switch and turn it back off. Their problem is when that switch is off, they're really, really bad. They're really bad. Fully turned off his switch.
Sorry about
No worries.
that. They haven't been bad in a while, though, and they do have a lot of young players that are very.
Yes.
They're very, very good. I just expect to see a great game here. France obviously have the pedigree. England want to get where they are, so they got to do what they got to do.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I believe this one here will be a barn burner. I think both teams will look to open each other up. Both teams will look to score early to settle their players down.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, with these young English players, if they were to nudge ahead, I think the confidence of that team goes way through the roof that France would have to use that experience that they have to get themselves back into the game. But I don't think the French would want to allow those young English players to have the run that they've been having throughout this World Cup thus far.
Yeah, well, them young English boys are fearless, just like them young French boys. So
yeah.
Fortunately, I have to go, Earl.
Okay.
It's come up, but look forward to it.
Thank you very much. Fully, we'll be back tomorrow night with another edition of the World Cup Show. Have a good night, buddy.
You
To be here
too.
today.
Yeah.